Welcome back to the Mountain Man Medical YouTube channel. Thanks for hanging out. Today I am at the TACMed Solutions headquarters at an undisclosed location in South Carolina. And today I'm with our subject matter expert. You might remember him from some of our previous videos. This is Dennis Lyons. I'm gonna let him talk a little bit about his background, but today we're going to be going over some range safety medicine. This is going to be some of the things you might need to think about if you're out training with firearms. I happen to know quite a few people who do a lot of training with firearms, and I have spent some time myself on the range as a range medic, providing that medical overwatch. So I do have some experience with this, but not nearly as much as Dennis here. So we're going to talk with him a little bit about that. So Dennis, why don't you kind of walk us through what a good mindset for a range medic might be?
You have to figure out, what kind of range am I training? Am I training jump operations? Am I training firearms? Are we doing explosives? Because your types of injuries are going to change. That may change the way you pack your kit. It may change the way you load your evacuation. It may change the way you set up your whole evacuation plan. So the type of training and the potential injuries that are going to come out of it are really important. You know, if you're training inside of an actual house with a lot of glass, right? You could expect to see, when things go wrong, could see a lot of lacerations, things like that. If you're doing jumps, fast rope operations, you're going to potentially see a lot of blunt injury from bad landings, things like that. So preparing your kit and preparing how you're going to cover is really dictated by the type of training you're doing. Mm-hmm. Now, we know that a lot of folks that are watching your videos aren't necessarily doing airborne operations or fast rope operations. So we're going to talk a lot about penetrating trauma from firearm safety.
So our goal is to manage that risk carefully, make sure that we have the things in place so that if things do go wrong, we can handle it, right?
Yeah, and there is that balance. So if you're in charge of the training, if you're in the military, there's always a training and a say. There's someone who's in charge of the training, and then there's usually a safety officer, and then you have your medic, and that plan and how you're training and the safety is ultimately the responsibility of the person in charge of the training, but everybody has a hand in that. You know, we always just say everybody's a safety officer, and yeah, we'd all roll our eyes at that, yeah. But it is absolutely true. Everybody has a hand in the safety plan, and more than just the medic has a hand in the medical plan. You know, for a long time in the military, the briefing was, all right, what's our medical plan? Well, doc's got it. Well, we realized very quickly that medical incidents are tactical problems with a medical component, right? So it's a combined approach. It's not, hey, doc's got the injury. There's other people that have to do things. Ground force commander or radio guys calling in 9-line, or, good example is, we found out we needed a person just to handle the flow of information, either a casualty recorder or a communications person, and that's all they do. So the plan is more than just a medical plan. It's a plan about how we're going to handle a tactical problem, because you may not be doing a mission in the military, but an injury in training on the range is treated the exact same as a tactical problem. We assume that training is going to stop and everybody is going to be immobilized to handle that problem. And figuring out who's doing what ahead of time is absolutely critical.
How would you go about briefing your staff for a medical emergency?
So on the other side of that, everybody wants to have hands in, and there's a problem there. So So it's a good balance. It's a good balance. I don't need everybody, but I need somebody. And having that laid out well ahead of time. I mean, we exercised everything. Occasionally, we even exercised at the end of our airborne operations. The last jumper is going to be a casualty. And that gave our medics a reason to go out on the drop zone, test whether they could drive their vehicle on the drop zone, how they were going to respond. Could they get to their scoop stretcher, their regular litters? Could they handle all of that? And then we would evac. Sometimes we would even, we had a plan in place where we didn't drive our vehicle all the way back to the hospital. we would call the hospital and we do an ambulance exchange halfway back because we were roughly 30 to 45 minutes from the hospital, and our regular EMS system had a better capability, and they had a better capability to hand off to the emergency room. So even if you're training, let's say you're running just a regular firearms range, why not throw a casualty scenario at the end of the day and just test your stuff and see if you can actually take care of and evacuate a casualty.
Well, that's an excellent point. And that's something I have not been doing on my ranges. Is I've not been doing any dry runs. So I have a plan in place. I'm telling people about the plan, but we haven't actually practiced it. So I think the very next couple of ranges that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be running through like a short scenario just to get everybody kind of understanding what it is that we're doing and what their roles are. I think that's pretty
cool. And it's a great thing to exercise because you figure out who your communications person is, who's your scene commander or task force or your ground force commander or the person that's orchestrating the whole problem. You know, your medic really should be focusing on the patient.
Right.
And everybody else should be focusing on the tactical problem. As the medic, you open up your scope a little bit and you keep an eye on what's going around you, but your job is to take care of that casualty.